Blue light is not automatically toxic, and your eyes are not being fried by every screen you look at. The real physiology is more specific than that. Blue wavelengths interact with visual processing, alertness, blink behavior, and the circadian system. And the outcome depends on dose, timing, brightness, distance, and what the rest of your day is doing. So if you want to understand what blue light really does to your eyes, stop using fear-based language and start using load management language. The problem is usually not that screens are secretly destroying your retina. The problem is that prolonged near work, reduced blinking, glare, poor lighting, and late-night light exposure create a visual and sleep recovery burden your system has to compensate for. Here is the mechanism. Blue light is part of the visible spectrum, and you get far more of it from the sun than from phones or computer screens. The small amount of blue light from digital devices has not been shown to cause eye disease, and the American Academy of Ophthalmology is explicit that blue light from computers has never been shown to harm your eyes. That matters because most people blame blue light for everything they feel after screen time, when the more immediate drivers of symptoms are usually overuse, close focusing, glare, poor positioning, and a drop in blink rate. When you stare at a screen for long periods, the eye's surface dries more easily. The focusing system works continuously at near distance, and discomfort builds as dryness, blur, burning, headache, or a heavy-eyed feeling. That is digital eye strain. It is real, but it is not the same thing as permanent light damage. Now separate the eye problem from the clock problem. Blue rich light has a strong effect on circadian timing because specialized retinal cells help signal light information to the brain's clock. Light and dark are the biggest environmental drivers of circadian rhythm, and blue wavelengths have a particularly strong effect on that system. During the day, that is useful. Daylight helps anchor the brain clock, support alertness, and improve timing between your sleep system and the external day. At night, the same biology can work against you. If you keep feeding the brain bright light, especially close to bedtime, you make it harder for the body to transition into the hormonal state that supports sleep. So blue light's most reliable modern downside is often not retinal damage. It is delayed sleep, lighter sleep, or slower wind down when bright screens extend too far into the evening. This is why people misunderstand the topic. They collapse three separate issues into one story. First, there is visual discomfort from long periods of screen use. Second, there is circadian disruption from mistimed light exposure, especially at night. Third, there is marketing that tells you one pair of blue light glasses will solve both. That is too simple. The AAO says several studies suggest blue light blocking glasses do not improve digital eye strain symptoms, and it does not recommend special blue light blocking eyewear for computer use. That does not mean every person who likes those lenses is imagining it. It means the evidence is not strong enough to treat them as the core solution. The higher return moves are usually behavioral and environmental, managing duration, blink frequency, glare, brightness, work distance, and bedtime light. So apply this like a coach. If your eyes burn, blur, or feel heavy after long computer sessions, your first assumption should not be, blue light is damaging me. Your first assumption should be that your visual system is overloaded. Respond by correcting the load. Keep the screen about an arm's length away, or roughly 25 inches, and position it so your gaze is slightly downward instead of straight ahead. Match screen brightness to the room instead of keeping it aggressively bright, and reduce glare from windows or overhead lights. If you are locking onto a screen and forgetting to blink, deliberately insert breaks. The widely used 20-20-20 rule is simple. Every 20 minutes, look about 20 feet away for 20 seconds. That gives the focusing system a break and helps reset blinking. If dryness is the dominant symptom, your problem is usually ocular surface stress from screen behavior, not a mysterious wavelength problem. If your body and lifestyle push you into screens late at night, then your response changes. In that scenario, blue light is less about eye discomfort and more about sleep timing. You reduce exposure before bed, not because the screen is drilling holes in the retina, but because your brain is still reading light as a wake signal. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine recommends avoiding blue light from handheld electronics 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime. If you cannot fully stop screen use, lower brightness, dim the room, use night mode, and switch from stimulating scrolling or multitasking to lower arousal tasks. The mistake is waiting until you are already wired and then trying to fix it with supplements, eye drops, or expensive lenses. If the late screen session is the trigger, control the trigger. Here's where most people stop, but here's the advanced layer. You do not judge blue light by one symptom in one moment. You judge it by operational tolerance across the day. Track whether the problem shows up as dryness, headaches, late day blur, trouble falling asleep, early morning fatigue, or all of them together. If symptoms spike after long screen sessions, but not after reading paper or being outdoors, that points you toward near-work behavior, blink suppression, and ergonomic issues. If you feel fine visually, but your sleep onset shifts later every time you use bright screens at night, that points you toward circadian timing more than eye strain. If poor sleep makes your eyes feel worse the next day, that is not random either. Recovery state changes how tolerant your nervous system is to visual load, and sleep debt can amplify eye discomfort, headaches, and screen sensitivity. Personalization matters. A gamer with 8 hours of nightly exposure, a desk worker under harsh overhead LEDs, and a shift worker using light to stay awake are not dealing with the same problem, even if all three say, "Blue light is bothering my eyes." This is also where you stop chasing quick fixes. If you buy blue light glasses but keep your screen too close, your brightness too high, your blink rate too low, and your bedtime too late, you have solved almost nothing. If you switch on night mode but then doom scroll for 2 more hours, the physiology still wins. Your system responds to total input: light timing, task duration, cognitive arousal, posture, dryness, and recovery. That is the trade-off people miss. A tool can help around the edges, but behavior architecture decides most of the result. For many people, the simplest upgrade is to treat screens the way you would treat training volume. You set limits before symptoms pile up. You do not wait until the system fails and then call that feedback surprising. Build the daily protocol around repeatable rules. In the morning, get real daylight exposure early when you can. That helps anchor circadian timing and makes your brain less dependent on artificial stimulation to feel awake later. During work blocks, protect the surface of the eye and the focusing system. Blink intentionally, break on schedule, lower glare, and keep your screen setup honest. In the evening, narrow the light signal. Do not flood the visual system with bright handheld screens right before bed, and then act surprised when sleep latency drifts. Pair this with the other systems that determine whether your eyes feel resilient or irritable: hydration, sleep regularity, stress control, and overall workload. A high-stress, sleep-deprived nervous system is less tolerant of visual friction. A recovered system handles the same screen load better. And test it under pressure, because that is where the real pattern shows itself. On travel weeks, keep the same rules with hotel TVs, phones, and laptop work. On deadline weeks, shorten visual breaks if you must, but do not delete them. During plateaus, do not immediately assume your eyes are getting weaker. First check brightness, distance, glare, bedtime screens, and sleep debt. If symptoms persist, worsen, or come with pain, flashes, new floaters, or significant vision changes, stop treating it like a productivity issue and get examined. The detail worth replaying is this: blue light is rarely the whole story. What matters is the mismatch between the light you give your eyes, the time you give that light, and the recovery your nervous system gets afterward. When you catch that logic, the topic becomes much easier to manage.